Oh, the Eat Well Guide.
Ah,
Literally, as I just spoke about it. So this is the way that the Public Health England and the NHS and the government advise that we should be eating. And every single time I see an advert, I want to scratch my eyes out because it's absolutely outrageous. So when you look at the Eat Well plate, you can see that so much of it in this yellow section is refined processed carbohydrates. And what's so interesting about that, without getting too conspiracy theorist, is actually there's a huge amount of money that is pumped into the system from these companies. So this information comes through such a corrupt lens. Actually, it isn't about public health in any way, shape or form. And it doesn't even take very long to start finding that. So it's really important to sort of understand. When we go, well, that's not what the government say. No, but when we start looking at how the government are lobbied, that's where a lot of these decisions are made. You can see that, well, there's a time I'm squinting to try and find the meat and fish, and you can see that they're calling lentils and chickpeas and nuts they're saying those are in the protein section, the pink section. And as you can see there as well, I mean, it's tiny little writing, but they've made a point of saying lean mince. So let's again continue to demonize saturated fat, which is absolutely ridiculous. Then we've got the sort of the dairy category. Again, big lobbying that happens around dairy. So all of that, but now they've added soya drinks in there too. And then a preposterous amount within the carbohydrates. And yes, some of that is non-starchy carbohydrates, but there is no distinction, is there, between the non-starchy and the starchy? So what they're saying is your bananas and your, I don't know what that is, oranges maybe, or is it an apricot? And your strawberries and your carrots and your raisins. I mean, oh my God, if I ate raisins all day, you love eating raisins all day.
I miss them.
Yeah. Starchy carbohydrate, great. Little sugar pills, that's what I call them. Corn, all, great to include in the diet in the right amounts. But if someone's just thinking, well, that's just a free fall and that because I need, that much of my plate to be this food, they're not going to be maybe going, oh, okay, well, I've got some banana and I've got some carrot and I've got some strawberry and I've got some grapes. Better, they're not thinking quantity of non-starchy to the ratio of starchy. And then the other half of their plate is going to be all this horrendous processed rubbish that they've got from the middle of the supermarket. And then a tiny part of their plate is in fact protein and then some dairy or fats. I think that's actually fats. And then look, and in that tiny bit there, vegetable oil and low fat spread, which is basically just heart attacks in packets. That heart attacks in packets. Absolutely, like hydrogenated fats or trans fats and seed oils that we know are full of inflammatory chemicals.
And this is the challenge that we face, is that you will see clients who come in and they say, I have a healthy diet, and it consists of, I do a smoothie in the morning, which has got strawberries and kale and bananas and mangoes, and it's got all this fruit in it and all this different veg, no protein, no fat. And then maybe for lunch, I have a sandwich with more vegetables. And then for dinner, I'm having pasta with maybe a little bit of fish or something, and a bit cooked in a bit of vegetable oil or with a bit of low fat spread or something. And when you start to see these diets and it is communicated that this is healthy, and then you look at their health history and what is going on in their endocrine system and their digestive system, this is where we can really, really help. And this education around this carbohydrate load that people think is going to be healthy, because we understand that there are vitamins in fruit and vegetables, but we don't understand the macronutrients. And this is our job.
And my favorite thing is people say, but they're healthy carbs. They're healthy carbs. I've got my brown rice and I've got my fruit and I'm eating slow release carbs. I'm eating stuff. I'm like, oh gosh, I mean, who is walking around as an encyclopedia of which is a slow release carb and what's a quick release carb? It's so confusing. And then they go, well, fiber. So there's all these different distinctions, slow release carb and fiber and this and that. And all of a sudden it's incredibly confusing. They don't even teach kids proteins, fats, and carbs. They teach kids about fiber as well. It's so confusing. So what actually happens is this massive amount of overwhelm. And so when you actually start saying to people, but carbs are just sugar, starchy carbs especially, there is no real difference. I say that with the caveat of, with fruit, yes, you've got vitamins and minerals. I would argue you don't really have any in that whole yellow beige plate, because the beige plate is they talk about fortifying it, so it's added synthetic vitamins and minerals. But actually, as soon as you've eaten them, especially in the fruit and veg, once the body is broken down to absorb the minerals and vitamins, which it does very quickly, now I've just got sugar. May as well have eaten Haribo. And so people don't understand that they're popping grapes thinking that they're doing themselves a favor, and actually they're just causing major blood sugar disturbances.
I really like that as a very simple education piece. Carbohydrates equal sugar.
Yeah, doesn't matter if they're slow release. It's still slow release sugar, fast release sugar. It's just sugar.
There's a little bit more detail about what the Eat Well guide is. 2 or more portions of veg. They do say have some protein, but the protein is beans and pulses, as well as the fish, eggs, and meat. We look at that very differently, because when you look at beans and pulses, they are double the amount of carbohydrate than they are protein. So they sit in the carbohydrate category. Again, another piece of education that you can do with your clients. Make sure that you've got carbs like potatoes, bread, rice, or pasta. Make sure that it doesn't make up more than 1/3 of your meal, preferring whole grain versions. This is absolutely where the lens of the food intolerance is missing.
Yeah.
And when you are eating foods that you are intolerant to, you are causing stress on the body, you are causing stress on the digestive system, you are causing potentially creating an immune response. And this piece of understanding is missing from the Eat Well guide. Have 2 portions of fish a week. Pick lower fat and lower sugar options for milk, cheese, and yogurts. We disagree with that. Fat is not the enemy. We do need fat, and often the lower fat, lower sugar options are full of chemical additives to make it taste nice. So this is again where you get hotter on becoming label readers. And it is something that you can do, is go into a supermarket with this. I'm just going to start reading labels and going and having a look at what is actually in a low-fat yogurt. And it's
do I need a chemistry qualification to be able to understand it?
If you do, put it back.
Yeah. Does it say contains protein and from this source? No. If it says dihydrocalcio something, or yeah, I don't understand what that is. That's not food, and your body won't understand what it is.
And opting for sunflower oils and lower fat spreads.
I literally feel ill looking at this slide. My body's going,
it's just such a artificial fat that to make it taste fatty, it has artificial fats in it, and we're not getting the goodness when we choose fats that are more meat-based, more natural-based. Then they come with all the fat-soluble vitamins that make our immune system work and make our endocrine system work and make our digestive system work. And so when you are cutting those fats out and replacing them with sunflower and
oh my lord, industrial lubricants. They're industrial lubricants.
Yes, good way of looking at it. You are there's your piece in inflammation, and that's when your cholesterol is going to be going up, because you've got really look out for that when you were doing your case studies. If there is a lot of lower fat spreads, lower fat dairy options that are going in, having this education for your clients is going to be so important. Another thing we disagree with, it's actually a list of things we disagree with, isn't it?
This is actually the complete opposite to what we recommend.
Yes, great. Thank you, the Eat Well guide. contradicting everything we believe.
The Eat Ill Guide. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. The Eat Ill Guide.
So you will come across clients who are dehydrated, and some of the clues in dehydration is dry skin, dry mouth, dry hair,
eye, watery
dry eyes, constipation.
Oh, my favourite, when people are talking and they have that sort of sticky beak. I can't even, I'm watching television and someone's got, I'm like, drink a glass of water.
Back pain, lower back pain, muscle aches. There's lots of dehydration. You can solve quite a lot of problems in the body by putting some water in. And where we disagree here is that when you're looking at things like tea and coffee, we cover this more in the adrenal work. Tea and coffee, because of the caffeine, is a diuretic, which means it uses water to be able to be processed. And soup, I'm like, soup's a food.
Food.
It doesn't,
not a water, it doesn't go through, no.
So your body will be using water in the body to be able to digest soup. So if you're dehydrated, then the water that you've got in your body is going to be used to digest the soup. So
and
we want
what soup? Like Heinz soup, which is just full of sugar.
Which is just going to make you more dehydrated. So we want to be recommending that our clients are drinking water as a standalone. It doesn't get included with the tea and the coffees and the soup. And then they recommend calories, calorie counting. So we go into this in more detail in the previous talk, which is around weight maintenance, and we look at calories and how we just look at calories. We're not taking into account nutrient density and how good that food is for us. So if you want to learn more about why calories in, calories out is a load of old rubbish, then check out our weight maintenance talk.
Yeah, I just want to say actually that one of the reasons that the PHC, the Public Health Collaborative we were talking about earlier, got established was because so many people who actually get diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes are taught to eat according to the Eat Well guide, and they get more and more and more into chronic illness. So there is, and absolutely someone was talking about the woman I was mentioning who is an advocate of PFC, Cassie Bjork, who was a dietitian in America, and Americans' guidelines is pretty much the same as these. And she was sort of going out there and sort of being evangelical about PFC, and she actually had to give up her dietitian's license because they're saying you're not following the guidelines. She's like, she is like about this thin, fit and everything, and she said that she just got there are photos of her saying, I was huge when I followed the Eat Well guide. When I was following what I was supposed to be teaching, I got more and more unwell and bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's very interesting when you start to see collectively around the world the people who have really understood this.